Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I'm loving it. Hi, spooky friends. Welcome back to episode 8 of Crypts and Corks. I'm your host, DJ, here with my co-host,
Paul, as usual.
I love when you say as usual.
It's kind of like my catchphrase. It's just like what we're doing these days.
You know, one of these days, I'm just gonna you're not gonna be able to co-host with me for some reason. Like, you'll be sick or something, and we'll be on a time crunch, and I'm gonna have to find a fill-in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna tell them, I need you to say, like, your name and then as usual, and I'm just not even gonna mention that Paul's not there.
They can't say as usual. They have to be like,
have to.
For my first time, this is blank. For my first time. And then every time after that, it's like the number of times they've been on. Something like that. We'll think of something.
Per usual.
Per usual. So DJ, how was your week?
All right, now I'm very hot because I'm wearing this very hot, oversized Planet Fitness staff sweatshirt that I stole. I did not steal it from the Planet Fitness. Rather, I stole it from a friend who worked at Planet Fitness. So I'm a little warm because before I came over here, I had to get the libations, is per usual.
Right.
Drink will be taken.
Per usual.
And I really need it because, like, I love recording, but, like, we're still fairly new to this, to the point where, like, I live with family and they don't understand that this is, like, a job, and, like, we're full swing decorating for Christmas, and my grandfather's like, I want to sleep until 11 o'clock, even though you said you have to leave between 11 o'clock and 11:30, but then I want you to help me put Christmas lights up.
Right, like, we got things to do. Like,
yeah, and then somebody from the homeowners association came around to collect dues, and my grandfather decided he wanted to have a half-hour conversation with him, and I'm like, dude, you were the one who's in a rush.
That's so frustrating. But also, so it's just a homeowners association in general, like...
Okay, I will say that, like, I don't normally like HOAs. Mm-hmm. Like, just... I mean, like, you just hear absolute horror stories about them. But, like, my neighborhood is, like, super chill. Like, I mean, Paul, you've been over to my house and you've seen the dump that's next door. Like, they're not gonna, like, come after you for, like, oh, your lawn's 1/8 of an inch too long, Douglas.
Right. See, that's the stories you hear.
They don't do that. Like, it's definitely like your own thing. It's just more like they put out a directory. They have a Facebook page for, like, and they do a watch. And they also do, like, events for kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they do parades for 4th of July and for Halloween, and they do an Easter egg hunt. So it's like, that's what the dues are for. And it's only $25 per household.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
I can see that.
So it's not like we're spending, like, $200 for Karen to, like, be like, so DJ, I noticed that you have a garden gnome that has a red hat and a green shirt, when you know that the HOA guidelines state that it must be a green hat with a red shirt. So you're gonna have to take it to your yard or we're gonna fine you.
Could you imagine? That was a great Karen voice.
Thank you. I will be doing voices throughout this episode just because I think they're fun.
Oh, I'm so ready for that. I'm so ready.
Paul, how was your week?
Oh, do I have a story for you?
Jesus. Take the wheel.
So, this week I actually went on a date, right?
What the fuck? Wait, what the fuck? I'm just hearing about this now?
Yes, because it's such a wild story. I need your honest reaction, so I had to save it for the pod.
You could have at least let me know that you had a date beforehand. What the fuck?
Listen, I have this, like, thing in my head where I'm superstitious, where I think about if I talk about it before I actually go on the date to, like, anyone else, like, I feel like it jinxes the date. So it's kind of like a superstitious thing for me, where I feel like if I tell people about it, or if I tell someone I'm excited about it, it jinxes it. So, like, that's why I don't tell you sometimes when I go on dates, just because, like, I don't want to jinx it. But this one, honey, it was jinxed from the get-go. Well, not from the get-go.
Maybe because you didn't tell me.
No, like, it was... Okay, this date, it was fine from the beginning. Like, we were talking and things and whatnot, and I'm like, okay, this guy's cute. He's smart. He does things, right? Like, he has a job, a car. Like, all the boxes are checked, right?
Right.
We're talking. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pay. I'm gonna make it my mission to pay for this guy because we only got 2 drinks. Like, well, not even like 2 drinks each. We each just had like 1 drink, right?
Okay, so I hate to interrupt here, but you said this and I have to ask. So you're top, so you're very insistent upon paying. But like, as a bottom, I'm first, but I lean more towards bottom. I'm very adamant, like on a first date, like let's go Dutch because we both have like equal thing. Like my thing is like we both have like equal stakes here. Mm-hmm. But I saw on tech that somebody said like if you want to pay your own way, that's one way of saying like friend zone. Is this true?
Kinda, I guess. Yeah, it is a little bit like
continue.
that. But so like the waitress comes down to like sit the receipt and I'm so insistent that I'm gonna like pay. I grab this receipt so aggressively and I do not realize how aggressively I grab this receipt until it's crumpled in my hand and it's like I'm choking a chicken with this receipt right now.
Wait, are you telling me that you went on a date and you were the problem?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
Yes. So I have this like receipt crumpled in my hand. I'm like, I'm gonna pay. And I say it so aggressively. And he's like, okay, thank you and everything. And I was like, yeah, no worries. It's just a drink. So the waitress takes my card. She goes, pay. And she comes back. And I'm like, okay, I'll just sign for the tip. And she goes, your card was declined. This guy was telling me about how he studied abroad in Italy. He does all this cool things. He travels. And my card declines on $15. And it wasn't because, like, you know how that looks, right? Like, my card declining, it looks like I'm broke.
I'm stressed.
But my card declined because I had lost my card earlier that day. And whenever I lose my card, I go in the app and I locked it, right? But I forgot to unlock it.
Did you unlock it and say, can you run it again?
No, I hurried up and grabbed another card and I tried to explain, but there's no coming back from that. Like, I could be lying. There was no coming back from that.
You probably could have come back if you would have said, like, give me 1 second, got your phone out, unlocked it, and said, can you please run it again?
Oh my God. That probably would have been the smart thing to do, but at that moment, I was just like, okay, another card, and then I tried to explain. And then, like, the date goes well, he seemed to, like, understand, blah, blah, blah. He even, like, hugs me afterward.
He blocked you, didn't he?
No, I didn't even get blocked. Like, he tells me, like, message me when you get home, which is always a good sign, right? So I message him when I get home, like, I'm home, I had a really good time, I hope to see you again. His next snap, finally in bed. Doesn't address, like, having a good time, doesn't address, like, wanting to see me again, like, nothing.
Also, just the way that was phrased, he sent that to all the hoes on Snapchat.
Probably. So, needless to say, I'm probably never going to see that man again in my life.
No. Okay, I need a drink after that story. Like, I'm about to have a panic attack after that story.
Okay, let's get into
the paranormal pairing.
Paranormal pairing.
Because I need a drink. Oh, Jesus. All right, folks. Today we're going to be drinking Bunratty Meade. Drink of Irish medieval banquets. It's a product of Ireland, obviously. It is white wine with honey. I have to get my glasses on so I can read the back. Let me get my readers on.
Oh my God.
This enchanting marriage of white wine with honey has been crafted in small batches at the historic Bunratty Winery of County Clare, Ireland. An esteemed delicacy enjoyed at medieval Irish castles, no banquet or festivity is complete without it. For a wedding, it is customary for a newlywed couple to indulge in this honey drink and enjoy for one full cycle of the moon, hence the word honeymoon. For any celebration, be sure to toast with a taste of Ireland's finest medieval treasure. Enjoy chilled or neat, pairs perfectly with any cuisine.
Ooh, okay. See, I don't know if I'm gonna like mead, so we'll see how this goes.
So, mead is just... And I learned this because I've actually been to Bunratty Castle.
Oh, okay.
Where they make this, I'm assuming. The castle's right on the front of the bottle, so I'm assuming.
Right.
And basically, it's just a fruit wine that's been sweetened with honey or other natural sweeteners.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can get modern day mead is like considered like a craft beer. Mm-hmm. But it's not that bad. I've had it like at the castle. Of course, this is probably going to taste different because there's probably additives and preservatives.
Right.
It's supposed to be a crack, and it's not cracking.
Same.
Oh, that was a really weak crack. It was muffled by my sleeve.
What can you do?
Ooh. Yeah, that smells like a 14%.
Ooh, girl, we can't get too drunk now. We got a long day ahead of us. It's like 11. Give us that light pour. That straight person pour. Okay. She's not that bad.
It tastes like honey.
It does taste a lot like honey.
Yeah.
I thought it would be.
Did you do that as a shot?
No, there's still some left.
Oh, okay.
There just wasn't that much in there.
Okay, I must have poured more for me. Either you took a bigger sip than I did, or it's very sweet.
It has, and I'm sorry for my mom listening to this, but the aftertaste is a little cummy. It's a little,
Vamp while I take another sip.
Well, I don't know if I would have this at a party, honestly. But, you know, if you're into, like, whiskey and darker liquors and things...
I'm feeling the 14%. Like, I can feel the warmth.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about this one. Not my first one I don't like. But again, I don't really do dark liquors.
Yeah.
Don't come at me. We still...
This is not a liquor.
Right. We still endorse the
Bunratty.
The Bunratty Meade. We still endorse. I would have it at maybe not a party. If you're like a whiskey drinker and you're at home sipping while you're having a movie, sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a sipper.
Yeah.
It's definitely a sipper.
She's a sipper.
Which like I said, I've been to Bunratty Castle and I've been to the banquet there, the medieval banquet, and like this is the pre-dinner drink.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to try some of their other products, see if anything else I resonate more with.
Okay. I mean, definitely like different meats are very good.
Right.
But Paul, let me tell you a story if I can get out of my folder. Two brothers stand atop a rocky outcrop. They have climbed here on a quest of bravery to prove themselves worthy to claim leadership of their clan. But only one of them can be chief. Unable to come to terms between them, they're prepared to let fate choose. They go to the edge and jump, falling through the air until they hit the ground below. One of them is greatly injured, pain filling all of his senses. But he is better off than his brother, who lies dead a short distance away. Fate has chosen him to be chief of his clan, and here, on the site of his first victory, he shall build his fortress. From this bloody origin has risen a structure claiming to be the world's most haunted castle. Today we discuss Leap Castle.
Leap Castle?
Lep. Sorry, shit!
Lep Castle.
It's spelled as we would say leap, L-E-A-P, but it is pronounced lep.
Lep Castle. Now, I don't know anything about this castle. Where is it? What's she doing? Like,
so if you haven't gone in by the fact that we're drinking Irish Castle mead...
Oh, so it's in Ireland.
It's in Ireland, the land of my people.
Okay, party. Well, I've never been to Ireland, so I'm excited to learn more about this
and
castle.
One of our biggest fans, shout out to Robert, has been to Ireland many times.
Yeah, he was born there, I think.
Really?
He was like raised there for the first 2 years of his life, I think.
Oh, I never knew that.
Shout out to Robert and his Irish upbringings.
So I have been to Ireland, and I have been to Bunratty Castle, which is in County Clare. I've never been to Leap Castle, though.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get in, since I have a little experience in what these structures are like, I just want to tell you, so when you say castle, and I'm sure a lot of our fellow American listeners are going to think of Cinderella Castle or Snow White Castle from Disney World. That is not what these castles are like. So as you can see on the front of it, it's just a very tall rectangular structure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because these were not built necessarily as homes, but as fortresses.
Okay, so more for war.
Yes, so more like a fort that you just happen to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all about defense against your enemies.
Right.
And so not a lot of windows, very thick stone walls. When I went to Bunratty, we first had to walk up, a very steep, very narrow spiral staircase into the Great Hall, which was about 2.5 stories tall, filled with antlers. And that's where the ancient lord of the castle would greet his guests.
Right.
And then we went into the dining room, which was down another set of steep spiral stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a smaller room with a lower ceiling. And that's where we had the meal. And then right off of that, for some reason, was the stairs to the dungeon. And I know this because I was taken into the dungeon because I was held hostage.
Hot.
It was part of the show.
Right. Okay.
And I wasn't taken to the actual dungeon. I was just taken to the staircase, and I'm like waiting there with the guy. He's like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna hear the cue, and then you're gonna want to scream while I bang on this metal grate." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I'm like, "Do I have like a couple minutes? Am I like allowed to go down these stairs and look in the dungeon?" He's like, "Oh, go ahead. Just like don't actually go in." And I like went down, and like. I'm 5'8", and, like, I could not stand up straight in this chamber, and it's dark and gloomy.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I go through this, like, that's some of the visuals that I'm going to be having.
Okay. That Irish accent, that was...
That was not... It just came out. Like I
That's
said,
like cultural appropriation. I'm calling the cops.
Paul, my name is Donovan Powers. I'm about as Irish as you can get. On my father's
Girl,
side.
I don't know about last names. I didn't go to school for that.
You didn't go to school for geometry.
Exactly.
Or, geology.
Or calligraphy. Unfortunately.
Wah, wah. All right. So, Leap Castle is one of Ireland's longest inhabited castles. It is located in County Offaly. I hope I said that right.
And if not, who cares?
Robert will
If you
care.
got something to say about it, leave it in the comments, and that way I can find your profile, and I'll let you know what I think about your comment.
Thank you for being my greatest defender. The land is believed to have been continuously inhabited since like 800 BCE. It was believed to have once been sacred to the Druids and used as a site to practice their rituals. Paul, do you know what the Druids are?
Yeah, they're like ancient wizards.
Yes, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
I mean, they were real people in Ireland, and like...
Yeah, and they did like alchemy and things,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, they're spooky. I'm into that.
Very cool. So, it was built in the 13th century, so that's the 1200s, by the O'Bannon clan, who were the secondary chieftains in the region behind the O'Carrolls.
Okay.
Why are you smirking?
I'm just doing my best. Doing my best to follow along, girl.
At the top of the story, I did do the legend about the two brothers who were battling for the leadership of the clan, and they jumped off the rocky outcrop where the castle was eventually built. And it was initially called the Leap of the O'Bannons, probably because of that reason. It was later shortened to Lep.
Mm-hmm.
As I stated, the O'Bannons were secondary to the O'Carrolls. This was a very good defensive spot. It was right by a local mountain range, like the path through the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And soon the O'Carrolls took it over from the O'Bannons.
Mm-hmm.
This is where things get really, really messy, because they were a very brutal, ruthless, and bloody clan who killed friend and foe alike and many family members to get control.
See, I feel like that was just a thing back then, like competing for the throne and whatnot. Like, ain't nobody safe. Everyone wanted the crown and no one was safe. Like, kind of like on Game of Thrones. Like, they were killing just everyone.
And, it continues to this day because, my brother's younger, and back in the day, I would have inherited the castle. And, like, my brother had a thing about chasing me with knives when I was little.
Really?
Yeah. He was also a bit of a pyro, but that's a story for another day.
Happens to the best of us.
So, In 1649, the castle was confiscated from the O'Carrolls and handed over to Jonathan Darby, a Cromwellian soldier, in lieu of payment for his military service. You don't know who Cromwell is, do you, Paul?
No, except for the Halloween Town people.
Yeah, not that. It's much less fun. So, Cromwell was the parliamentarian leader who became the dictator of England, Scotland, and Ireland during a period called the Interregnum in British history, which that was the time period following the English Civil War when King Charles I was executed and the monarchy was dissolved until after Cromwell's death, when the monarchy was restored with Charles I's son, Charles II. In Ireland, it was ruled by England at this time. Mm-hmm. And after the monarchy dissolved, Ireland thought finally independence, and then Cromwell actually invaded Ireland and marched through basically subjugating them again. Mm-hmm. And so Cromwell confiscated this castle from one of the chiefs because Ireland was ruled by chiefs depending on the area. Mm-hmm. And he took this castle and he gave it to one of his soldiers and said, "Here's your pay."
You got a whole castle.
Yeah.
I wish I got a freaking castle from doing my work and my job.
So obviously by the late 1600s and even into the 17 and 1800s, you no longer needed a fortress because you didn't have warring clans fighting. So the Darby family converted the house from fortress into a manor house. So if you've ever seen Downton Abbey, think about that. The inside looked more like Downton Abbey or like a palace rather than this medieval castle with less Game of Thrones, more Pride and Prejudice.
Okay, I got you.
One of the most famous residents was the last mistress of the castle, Mildred Darby, the wife of Jonathan Charles Darby, not the original Jonathan. This is like Jonathan the 15th. Mm-hmm. I just made up that number. He wasn't actually like the 15th Jonathan. There are just a lot of Jonathans.
Oh, okay. See, I would have believed you.
No, I really don't want anyone to come at me in the comments like, he was not the 15th.
Oh my gosh.
And the interesting thing about Mildred, she's going to be a very important part of the story. She was a noted Gothic writer and occultist.
Oh, she was practicing the craft.
Sort of. She held many seances and other occult, like not traditional occult, but like at this time occult practices in the castle. And she wrote many Gothic and haunted stories inspired by the castle, which widely publicized the haunted nature of the structure. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go back, a lot of the stories, skeptics say like, oh no, this is a fictional story because it's not Lep Castle, it's something else. And she doesn't say like, my name is Darby, she says my name's O'Carroll. But it was because her husband was a very, how do I want to say, ill-tempered man. Mm-hmm. And this was like his family home, and he didn't want his wife writing about how haunted it was. And so she always took pains to keep the anonymity of the castle. And it was only after they had moved out that it really came out like, oh no, she was writing from her own experiences.
Wow. Here we are again. Men oppressing women again.
Oh, very much that. And like, I will do a wonderful impression of Jonathan Charles Darby later on in the episode.
Looking forward to it.
So the Darbys lived in the castle from 1649 to 1922, when during the Irish Civil War, the castle was burnt by dissatisfied tenants in retaliation for the Darbys raising rents. And this was also part of throwing off English rule, because, like I said, the Darbys were not exactly Irish, and they were given it by an Englishman in return for services to the English. And the Irish Civil War is all about seeking independence for the Irish.
Okay.
So, this long and bloody history has left Lep Castle to be very, very haunted.
Oh, I love a good haunted castle. I'm ready to hear about this.
Yeah, so we're going to go through all the different ghosts. I have 6 pages worth of ghost stories.
All right, well, let's dive right in, girl. Get right into the spook.
So, honey. So the first ghost that we're going to discuss is the governess. Paul, do you know what a governess is?
Yeah, she's like the lady of the castle. Like, she's the owner, she's the wife, she's the doll.
Close, but no. Well, actually, not close, but no.
Oh.
So that would be the mistress of the castle.
Oh, see, that would be me. I'm a mistress.
The governess would be, to us Americans, it would be another name for a nanny. Mm-hmm. Or a woman in charge of teaching the children of the lord and lady of the castle. Mm-hmm. So the governess appears as the ghost, or it is the ghost of a woman appearing in Victorian attire, and she is most often spotted in the Great Hall. Now, when I say the Great Hall, I don't mean like a hallway. It's the center room of the castle.
Right. The gathering room, if you will.
So it was a traditional keep castle where it was just one large tall structure. Mm-hmm. And then as the Darbys continued to add on additions, they added on 2 different wings, one of which was called the priest's house. So hang on, I'm getting a picture for you.
And again, go to our Instagram so you can see the picture.
So that's Lep Castle.
Period.
So that center tall structure would have been the original castle. And then you can see the added wings on either side.
Okay.
And that center structure, the keep, is dominated by the Great Hall, which is a large open space. She's sometimes seen with Emily and Charlotte, who are 2 little girl ghosts, who we're going to get into later. Guests often see her manifest and walk diagonally across the hall and then disappear. Mm-hmm. Nobody knows why she's dominated in this room, but she does pop up a lot in this room.
Okay. I mean, maybe she likes to entertain. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, or, maybe her charges the children, like playing in that room when she was alive. Okay. Or it could be a residual haunting.
Oh, true.
Maybe something very traumatic or exciting happened in that moment to cause her to... Well, I guess it wouldn't be really residual if she also appears with the little girls.
That's true.
So now we're going to get into the old man, and I have a quote here from Mildred Darby. Should I do a voice?
Yes, do the voice.
There is a little man with a green cutaway coat, knee breeches, and bright shoe buckles, holding a leathern bag in his hand, sometimes seen with a little old woman with skinny hands, long black mitts, old-fashioned dress, and a big headdress. Both are sometimes seen with an old man dressed like a priest, with an intensely cunning face. The green old man tries to stop people. Mildred Darby. Okay. And you will notice that I did an English accent and not an Irish accent, and that's because the Darbys were essentially British.
Okay. This man kind of sounds like a leprechaun.
A little bit. When I first read it, I thought like, oh my god, a leprechaun, like what could be more Irish?
Right.
But the fact... And, I mean, he does try to stop people. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, but leprechauns are essentially tricksters.
Yeah. Like,
they fall into the fae, or the wee folk, the good folk, who we will not talk about.
This time.
Eventually, we will talk about them and hope that they do not fuck with our recording.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah, and the priest will come up later, and I think the old woman might be the governess.
Okay.
But also, like, the big headdress, she could also be one of the O'Carrolls. Because I hear big headdress, and I think, like, the medieval, like, the Tudor headdresses.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the veils and the peaked hats, the hoods. They called them hoods.
Okay.
Now we're going to get into Emily and Charlotte themselves. As I mentioned before, they're the ghosts of 2 young girls. Emily is 11 or 12, and Charlotte is 6 or 7. They are thought to be the ghosts of children of the last O'Carrolls or the first O'Darbys, because they, based on their clothing, they have been noted to be from the 1600s, the mid to late 1600s. They're both in long white nightgowns.
Oh, okay. So that's like your stereotypical, like, Victorian, like...
Not Victorian, because they're from the 1600s.
Different time era.
Yes.
Okay.
Totally. So, Emily, we know definitely how she died. She fell off the battlements, which is the roof of the castle.
Oh, no!
Fell or was pushed?
I wonder who pushed her. Probably that.
Well, Malevolent. Were you going to say the other little girl?
Yeah.
Okay, but that is some shit that my brother would pull.
Right. They're competing for the crown. They're competing for the throne.
Girls can't inherit, Paul.
Well, either way, they're competing to marry into the throne then.
Maybe. But also, like, we'll get into a more malevolent spirit at the end. Because that's where the real spook comes in.
Ooh, looking forward to it.
Because Paul said that my stories aren't scary enough, and he wants me to scare him.
Yeah, this is his challenge, is to scare me, and I haven't been scared yet.
So, people still report seeing a girl falling from the roof. But she disappears before reaching the ground, or they run outside to try and help and save her before she dies, and there's nothing.
Okay, that's definitely residual.
The current owners, the Ryans, Sean Ryan and his wife, I forgot to mention that during the history. They bought it, even though it was burnt, the stone structure of the outdoors remains, and they are working on renovating. And you can go on guided tours to the house now.
Okay, nice.
Charlotte. So you can never get them confused, because Charlotte has a deformed leg which is almost turned entirely backwards and drags behind her.
Oh, no.
So they are sometimes spotted playing, and Emily's a little bitch because they will see Emily running and Charlotte trying to run and keep up with her. So Emily's a little bitch.
I just picture her with her leg dragging.
Wait, my foot's caught in a gap in the floorboards.
Not that. That's the saddest poor little ghost girl ever.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining. I'm sorry because, like, I'm just imagining, like, well, the house was in ruins, and it's like, wait, my foot's caught in the floorboards.
Oh my god.
And you know Emily's not stopping.
Oh no.
I mean, if Emily's anything like me, my brother is like, nah, 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 nah.
Right, homegirl probably pushed her off the castle. I wouldn't stop either.
Okay, but what if Charlotte got tired of Emily outrunning her, so finally Charlotte just pushed her off the roof?
So her leg was like that, and like while she was alive?
We think.
Okay.
I mean, unless that was like how she died, is like she broke it in an accident and gangrene or infection set in.
Okay. That would make sense too.
But like Charlotte did not fall off the roof. Although I was listening to one podcast about this, and one of the hosts is like, why are we just assuming that they're two perfectly normal ghost girls? Like, what if Charlotte's a demon and like she just doesn't know how human legs work?
Oh, maybe. That would be spooky.
That would be spooky, but I don't like that. I like to think of them. They're just... Because Sean Ryan says that when he does see them, they're happy and they're playing.
Hey, as long as they're happy, why not?
Yeah, so, I mean, I love happy ghosts because I do not subscribe to the belief that ghosts, like, have to have unfinished business or have to be miserable and, like, have experienced trauma to stay somewhere. Like, maybe they were sisters and Emily died first and then Charlotte, or vice versa. And, like, they just wanted to be together so bad that when they found each other in the afterlife, that they're just like, oh my god, we're going to stay and play in the castle for the rest of eternity.
Right, that sounds nice. That's a nice thought. I like that.
So we're going to move on from the Great Hall into the priest's house. This is not actually a separate house. This is just one of the wings of the castle. This area of the castle does remain a burnt-out ruin to this day. It is home to several spirits. Before it burnt down, it was a normal part of the house. Guests would stay there, and people would report something or someone heavy laying on their bed and snoring. I would hate that because, like, my father snores, and, like, when I would have to stay with him, in my grandmother's house because my father lived with his mother. And so when I stayed with him, I would stay with my grandparents. And for some odd reason, all the bedroom doors had to stay open. I don't know why. I thought it was really weird. Mm-hmm. But one night, his snoring was so loud that I got out of bed and I closed his bedroom door. And it was still too loud, so I closed my bedroom door, and it was still too loud.
That's wild. Your dad, he needs one of those CPAP machines or
something. He really does, because I then actually, like, after a couple hours, I did, like, take a pillow and try to smother him a little bit. Mm-hmm. Did get in trouble. Totally got in trouble.
You were an aggressive little kid.
I was not aggressive. I just really wanted to sleep. Also, I have a fairly interesting history with my father, which we will not get into because we're discussing enough haunted shit today.
Right, we're not doxing anyone yet.
There's also the spirit of a burly peasant man. We love a burly peasant. Who is seen taking barrels towards the service entrance. So I want to know what fucking trauma happened to this. Because carrying barrels for all eternity does not sound like fun. So what fucking trauma happened that he is forced to carry barrels of mead into the servants' entrance?
The trauma was probably carrying the barrels. I wouldn't want to carry barrels for a job. That was probably the trauma.
But also, maybe he's like... Maybe he's got the hots for a lady ghost, and like he's like, look how many barrels I can carry.
Oh, and he's just like forced to carry barrels for eternity,
yes.
Never having requited love. That would be a sad book. I would read that book.
You should write that book.
Ooh, I would not be a good author.
Also, I'm noticing that I'm like trying to spin all these to be like happy ghosts. Mm-hmm. And I am doing that because Sean Ryan, his wife, said like, the ghosts are fairly like, they're just other residents of the house. And like they try to keep them happy and like whatnot. There is one very malevolent ghost, and I keep mentioning it coming up. Mm-hmm. And trust me, I will not be trying to make that happy because there is no happiness that comes from that. Mm-hmm. There's no happiness. I've actually, because all of my stories I run past Nanny before I come over here, and I've been terrorizing her with that story for 3 days.
Oh, I'm so excited. Let's get to this. I'm so ready for this spooky
All right. Oh, this one's not happy. Aww. And there's no making it happy. This is the ghost of the murdered woman. Mm-hmm. So the story goes that two O'Carroll brothers reportedly quarreled over a lover, mm-hmm. which eventually resulted in her murder. Which I don't know why. Why are you... Like,
if I can't have you, no one can.
There are so many stories. Like, we've already gone through one story of brothers fighting over leadership and they jumped off a cliff. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get into another story of brothers fighting over leadership. But now you're fighting over a girl. Why aren't you killing one another? Why do you have to kill her?
And like I said before, if I can't have her, no one can.
Well, yeah, she probably picked one of them and the other one killed her.
Oh, yeah.
So she is often seen in the gallery of the Great Hall. So you have this tall room, and then on the second floor you have like a balcony, but it's running all around the room.
Right.
So just for our listeners who don't see a visual.
Okay.
So she's seen walking up there, and she's described as wearing very little clothing and a red cloth over her face. She's seen either walking along the gallery or being chased by someone in visual along the gallery. And when she gets to the end, she shrieks and falls into a heap on the floor before disappearing. So that's probably definitely residual.
Yeah, probably how she got murdered.
But a paranormal researcher also saw the ghost of two redcoats, so British soldiers, torturing a woman and breaking her arm. So that could have been from a later time in history, probably during the Glorious Revolution, mm-hmm. When fairly peacefully King James II was overthrown, mm-hmm. and his daughter Mary and Mary's husband were installed as king and queen. But Ireland tried to uprise and get their independence, and William invaded. So I'm thinking that might be from that time period.
Oh, okay.
Separate from the murdered woman, we have the red woman.
That'd be me. My favorite color is red.
Well, she doesn't have a very happy story. So she is often seen wearing a red or scarlet historic dress. That was described as Mildred Darby in the late 1800s. So think 1600s, 1500s, earlier than that. She is tall and thin, and she carries a knife which she raises menacingly into anyone she meets. She seems to glow. And she leaves... What?
Nothing.
Just like, oh, what skincare are you using, girl?
She's glowing. Oh my gosh. Slay.
But she leaves an immense coldness and a sense of dread. So people who see her say, like, it gets super cold, and then, like, you just start to feel like, oh no, before you see her.
That's kind of spooky.
She is said to be the ghost of a woman who is captured by one of the Carols, who then, okay, trigger warning, who then essayed her.
Oh my god.
Resulting in a child.
Okay.
After she gave birth, the child was taken, and its throat was slit. The woman then took the dagger and unalived herself.
That story...
by slitting her own throat.
...is awful. That is so awful.
Like, when I said the O'Carrolls were ruthless people, I meant it.
You weren't joking, girl. That's terrible.
And I didn't even get into the whole, like, brother killing brother, nephew killing uncle, uncle killing nephew.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was, like, a solid century of, like, whoever had the castle, like, they got it through murder, and then they ended up murdered.
Oh my, that's so Game of Thrones.
Yeah. She is known to stalk unknown men through the castle with her knife. For good reason.
Right, she's scarred.
Or, Mildred Darby wrote how she would appear in the old nursery where she would weep at the foot of the cribs.
That is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Oh my god.
There's another story by one of the Darby's guests, Mildred Darby's guests, where he went to bed. I feel like I'm gonna burp, but like it's... There we go.
Okay, period.
That honey, it's just like... when I'm sick, I drink a lot of tea with honey, and it's like the same, like... You just feel kind of thick.
Right.
And not like thick as in, ooh, damn, girl, you thick.
Stop. Oh my god.
Which, who knows, maybe that's the burly peasant man to the governess.
Ooh.
Maybe that's it. Like, maybe they're like, maybe they spotted one another, like, while setting up for a party, and, like, she's constantly, like, walking past, trying to get his attention, while he's constantly, like, they're just trying to, like, oh, wouldn't that be, like, awful? Like, they're trying to meet, but they're past Nether Cross?
That does sound really sad.
That would be a great story.
That would be a great story, but a really sad one. And I do like a good sad story, though.
Unless you had paranormal investigators somehow manipulating it so that they finally did meet and they're able to waltz off into the sweet hereafter together.
You should write that book. That would be a great book.
I'd probably just be a short story.
Yeah.
I don't know. It would be a very dull book. It was just constantly, and then the governess walked past and she disappeared. And a moment later, the burly man brought the barrel in. Because you know, it'd just be a lot. Like, very wistful, the wistful longings. Wistful longing looks.
That could be the title of the book, Wistful Longings.
Oh my god.
That's my Tinder profile now. Like, my Tinder profile bio. Just a wistful longing.
Enjoy long walks upon my widow's walk, wistfully looking at sea, waiting for my long-lost captain husband to return to me.
Honestly, a vibe. Me.
You know, I kind of want to change that to my, make that my Tinder profile and just see how many people match me.
I'd be curious. You should do that and keep us updated on the next pod.
We'll see. The story about the Darby's guest. So yeah, he went to bed, and in the middle of the night, he felt the presence of somebody standing in there.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, hello? Hello? And he, like, sat up, and his eyes adjusted, and he looked at his watch, and it was 1:45. And then he looked, and he could see a tall woman who was glowing from within, wearing a red dress and holding a knife. And he didn't recognize her because he was there for a house party. He recognized everyone. And he was freaked out, so he lit a match. And as soon as the match lit, she disappeared.
Oh, that's spooky.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, I don't know what I would do if I woke up and saw that.
So now we're going to go into one of the most haunted rooms in the castle. The Bloody Chapel.
Ooh, that sounds like a good name for, like, a nightclub.
You know, I love this idea because I've said it before and I'm going to tell you again. I would love to find an old church and turn it into a gay nightclub.
I feel like that would be awesome. It's probably been done, but it would be so cool.
So I do know there is like a speakeasy somewhere in Europe because I saw a TikTok, and it's not an old church, but it's done up with a bunch of, to look like a church on the inside. Like there's confessionals where you can like order special drinks, and like everything's like very religious.
Yeah.
And it's like a take on like classic Catholicism.
Yeah.
But no, I'm like saying like, I just think that there's just such a dissonance between religion and homosexuality that I think it'd be really cool to like take an old church and turn it into a nightclub.
That would be really cool. I'd be here for that.
Or a gay bar.
Either one, you know? No,
Yeah.
that'd be cool. I'd go to it.
You don't even need the religious iconic stuff in there anymore. Like just the fact that it's in a church and like sort of like, yeah, and like have the old like organ place like set up for like for people to sit and like dance floor where the altar was. Like I think it'd be lit.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I'd go.
And maybe we'll call it the Bloody Chapel. So this is the room above the Great Hall. So that center tower, three stories. Two of them's the Great Hall. One of them is the Bloody Chapel. One of the ghosts is a priest called the O'Carroll priest. In 1532, Mulrooney the Great O'Carroll died and left a power vacuum behind him. Brother turned against brother, and one of the brothers was a priest. One day, and so him and his brother, who is more of like the classic warrior soldier, they're turning against one another for who's going to succeed their father for leadership of the clan. One day, the brother, who's a priest, began mass before his brother arrived, which is a great insult because he was saying it for the family. So basically this is saying, I'm head of the family and you're diddly squat. So his brother was so infuriated, he burst from the room, charged up the aisle to the altar where his brother was mid-saying mass, and ran him through with his sword.
Oh my gosh.
The priest fell across the altar and bled out in front of his family, and obviously the other brother got to be head of the clan. And this is what started the whole brother killing brother, like da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
For like a century and a half.
Oh, that's a long time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be a mother having kids during that time.
Nar.
Like, because you know your kids are going to kill each other. Literally.
The Darbys had actually turned it into a bedroom, which they called the murder hole room.
What a delightful name for your bedroom.
And apparently, while it had wooden floors still, there were bloodstains on the floor which would never come out.
That's spooky.
The ghost of the priest has been seen praying in the chapel or lurking on the stairs down to the hall. So you might ask, why was it called the murder hole room? Because it has an oubliette.
Who?
An oubliette. So oubliette is the French word for to forget. And this is kind of like a dungeon. But what would happen is you would get shoved in there, and then there's a trapdoor that would drop you down onto spikes. And then whoever was at the top closed the trapdoor, and they would just forget about you.
Oh my gosh.
So initially, the chamber began as a room to store valuables to hide during the siege. The O'Carrolls, however, with their ruthlessness and their bloodthirstiness, formed it into the oubliette. And you might be wondering, did anyone actually use this? Yes. On one occasion, the O'Carrolls hired the O'Neill clan, my ancient ancestors, to fight as mercenaries with them.
Oh.
Following their victory, they invited the O'Neills back to the castle for a feast. During the feast, the O'Neills were fed poisoned food.
Oh my, after they did all that for them?
Yeah.
Sometimes it be your own.
And then, to make sure that they were dead, their throats were slashed. And then to make sure that they were dead, they were thrown into the oubliette.
Oh my god. There's no mercy out here.
Do you know why? Like I said, do you know why you would kill your allies? To not have to pay them.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible.
In 1599, Charles O'Carroll did the same thing to the McMahon clan when they fought with him against, again, my ancestor, the Earl of Tyrone.
Wow.
So, my family had beef with the O'Carrolls.
It sounds like it.
Constantly.
Oh my gosh.
But this time, the soldiers were killed while they slept after the feast, and then thrown into the oubliette.
At least they were killed in their sleep. That sounds... I'd rather die in my sleep.
The oubliette, like I said, means to be forgotten. So it was forgotten about when the O'Carrolls were forced out and the Darbys moved in.
Mm-hmm.
Until the Darbys began to do renovations, and they found the oubliette.
What?
And in the oubliette, they found 150 skeletons. Which, if that's not crazy enough, that's 3 wagonfuls of bones that had to be carted out.
That's so many. That's so many people.
And some people say that when the oubliette was refound and reopened, that was the inciting factor for the hauntings. Because there was just so much stewing in there that when it was finally opened, like, everything just rushed out.
That makes sense, honestly. It was like they were opening maybe like a portal or something.
Well, Paul, are you ready to get into Lep Castle's most famous, most confusing, and most dangerous spirit?
I'm ready for it. Lay it on me.
This is the Elemental.
Oh, okay.
No one knows exactly what it is or where it came from. Perhaps it was summoned by the Druids to protect their sacred land. Another theory is that the Earl of Kildare, a noted practitioner of magic who tried to conquer the castle several times, summoned it to burn the castle down from the inside. Some locals think it may be the spirit of an O'Carroll who died of leprosy in the castle. Or it could have been with the spirits of those in the oubliette or awoken by them upon their rediscovery. Or, because it only appears when provoked, it could have come through or been incensed by Mildred Darby's seances.
That would make sense. I could see that, like them accidentally summoning an elemental spirit. Yeah, I could see that.
So, I'm now going to read an account from Mildred Darby about an encounter with the elemental.
Period. Let's get into it.
Should I do the voice or is that going to ruin it?
Maybe not the voice.
Yeah, because this one's scary. Like, I'm getting goose pimples just thinking about it. Suddenly, 2 hands were laid on my shoulders. I turned round sharply and saw as clearly as I see you now, a gray thing, standing a couple of feet from me, with its bent arms raised as if it were cursing me. I cannot describe in words how utterly awful the thing was, its very undefinableness rendering the horrible shadow more gruesome. Human in shape, a little shorter than I am, I could just make out the shape of big black holes with great eyes and sharp features. But the whole figure, head, face, hands, and all were gray, unclean, bluish gray, something of the color and appearance of common cotton wool. But oh, so sinister, repulsive, and devilish. My friends who are clever about occult things say it was what they call an elemental. The thing was about the size of a sheep, thin, gaunt, and shadowy in parts. Its face was human, or to be more accurate, inhuman. In its vileness, with large holes of blackness for eyes, loose, slobbery lips, and a thick, saliva-dripping jaw, sloping back suddenly into its neck. Nose it had none, only spreading, cancerous cavities, the whole face being a uniform tint of gray. This, too, was the color of the dark, coarse hair covering its head, neck, and body. Its forearms were thickly coated with the same hair, so were its paws, large, loose, and hand-shaped, and it sat on its hind legs. One hand or paw was raised, and a claw-like finger was extended, ready to scratch the paint. Its lusterless eyes, which seemed half decomposed and looked incredibly foul, stared into mine, and the horrible smell, which had before offended my nostrils, only 100 times intensified, came up to my face, filling me with a deadly nausea. I noticed the lower half of the creature was indefinite and seemed semi-transparent, at least. I could see the framework of the door that led into the gallery through its body.
Oh my gosh, she's spooky. That sounds like a whole, like, demon. Like, if I saw that in person, like... But also, that was so well written. Like, that's what she said?
Yeah, that's what she said, and she actually published that in a magazine.
Okay, see, that makes sense why it sounds so well written. That sounds like something you'd read in a book.
But I did... There was another account by W.T. Stead, who was a noted investigative journalist and occultist from this period, who reframed it and recontextualized it from hearing it from her. And basically he said that, like, she had not provoked it. She wasn't thinking about ghosts. She actually went on the... so she went to bed. Her husband had come with her, and then he went back downstairs. And she went out in the gallery to call him back upstairs for something. And that's when she was grabbed by it. And she was so terrified afterwards that she fled down the hall into her sister's room. Her sister was staying with them. And collapsed in a dead faint and had a nervous breakdown and couldn't be revived for a week after seeing this.
Wow. Do you think that elemental, it could be like the personification? Well, personification probably isn't the right word, but just like all the negative energies and the negative things that happen in the castle, just like put into that form, into like all the energy, the negative energy.
Let me show you a picture of an artist's conception.
Okay.
Or
sorry, I don't mean to laugh.
That one's a little funny. Here's another one. This one's a little scarier.
Yeah, that one's scary.
But I think this one's a little too human.
Yeah, she's snatched though. She's got that waist.
Like when I first read it, I could see it so clearly in my mind. I imagine like E.T.'s body. So like really short, like folded in legs, and a very like squat, round body. But super long arms.
Right.
With those claw-like hands. And then, I just like the face, I imagine like super droopy. Like all of it. Like, and the eyes like huge black holes. And I don't know, like I'm a little sensitive, and so I can almost imagine it like sounding like,
that would be spooky.
Like, sort of like, I know Dementors from Harry Potter don't make a noise, but like, just that sort of sound.
Right.
No, I don't think it's the negative. I think it I don't, maybe from the Druids, it could just be a really ancient spirit.
Maybe that ancient spirit, like, fuels, like, maybe it was always there and it fuels all the negativity that was happening.
We're going to get into that into another story. Let me read this story from a guest who actually wrote back in response to Mildred Darby's account. I saw your eyes fixed upon something above our heads, and the next minute my own eyes were filled with the sight of a thing in the gallery looking down at us. There is plenty of light from the lamps in the hall, and the one above on the wall at the corner of the gallery, for every one of us to see quite plainly the gray-colored figure about the height of a small grown-up person looking down at us. I wish I thought I could ever forget the sight of that gray figure with dark spots like holes in its head instead of eyes, standing with gray arms folded on the gallery railing, looking down at us. Then, just as he put foot on the gallery, the thing that he saw there that we were watching suddenly faded out of sight. The thing did not move, only became less visible and less visible until it vanished. So once again, gray thing, fairly small in size. Black, vacuumous eyes. And then this is Mildred Darby's last account. She wrote this in a letter to Sidney Carroll.
Okay.
Their relation to the O'Carrolls. The last appearance of the elemental was on November 25th, 1915, and I deduct again last November from the gait of my husband really wild with rage, fright, coming into my room at midnight to let fly at me for again dressing up things to try and frighten me. That's my Jonathan Darby impression.
Oh my god.
On the 25th November, 1915, two of our servants, knowing the master would be late, and that I was driving that afternoon, had invited friends, 2 soldiers from the barracks at Burr, distant the other side 6 miles. They came rather late, and my husband came home early, so the visitors had to be kept out of his sight in the lower regions of the wings, probably in the priest's house. They were unable to be shown the centre tower, the very lofty hall. At 7:15, my husband and I went up to dress for dinner. My room in the extremity of house from kitchens, his dressing room next door to me. Whilst dressing, I was startled by a loud yell of terror-stricken male and female voices coming apparently from the hall, and ran out to see the cause. My husband was out ahead of me. At his heels, I passed through the corridor of the wing and onto the gallery wing rounds two sides of the hall. 2 lamps on the gallery, 2 more in the hall below. On the gallery, leaning with hands resting on the rail, I saw the thing, the elemental, and smelt it only too well. At the same moment, my husband pulled up sharply about 10 feet from the thing, and after turning, let fly a volley of abuse at me, ending up, "Dressing up a thing like that to try and make a fool out of me, and now you'll say I've seen something, and I have not seen anything, and there's nothing to see or ever was."
Ooh, the voice gotcha.
Yeah, that's what old curmudgeon British men sound like. This last speech, without a pause, began waving one hand at the thing, ended up by stalking back to his dressing room, still abusing me for trying to give him a fright. As he was speaking, the elemental grew fainter and fainter in its outlines until it disappeared. By the sounds from my husband's room, I judged he was employed as I was in preparing an empty spot for our coming dinner. He never made any inquiry as to the yell that called us both out, and from that day to this has not mentioned the incident to me. I heard from our servants that when we went to dress for dinner, they had brought their friends just to show them the hall. When all 4 had suddenly seen and smelt the elemental looking down at them from the gallery, we all got such a turn we couldn't help letting out a bawl, then fled to servants' quarters where all 4 were very sick. The 2 maids had letters necessity. Basically, they were all very sick after seeing this, and then the 2 maids got letters saying that they had to go home urgently, and they never returned.
Oh, they probably didn't get those letters. They were probably like, "I'm out home, girl, and I needed an excuse."
Yes. So obviously her Mildred Darby's husband never believed it. He was super pissed at her even writing about the things that went on in the castle anonymously.
Mm-hmm.
But also we can see the sheer aggressiveness
Of the
husband when he saw the thing, just like
right.
Or if he went to Eden, that's how Etonians sound.
I think it is interesting that it seems to me like this family is the only thing that's seen the elemental, or are they not the only people who have seen it? Or are we getting to that?
I have more current stories.
Oh, there's current stories. Let's go.
So, this one's from 2002. I traveled to Lep Castle in order to make a show for a local TV network, and this was my first time in the notorious castle. I had heard so much about it. So the show went well, but I wanted to try the UV on the camcorder while still shooting. I sent something down the old access to the battlements earlier and never went down. I climbed the stairs with the camcorder in front. The light from the UV allowed me to see about 6 feet ahead of me, and no more, so I climbed slowly. I opened the Gothic-style door and made my way slowly down the narrow passage. About 10 feet in, I thought I saw something move, and I lifted my head. I could feel something was wrong, but I had no idea what. This time, with the camera dropped, I thought I saw a glow come from around the corner, and then it went back in. I studied this for a while and thought it may be a side effect of the UV, which can be common. A few steps more and my body was weakening fast. It was a strange sensation. Suddenly this mass of white like mist raced around the corner like a bull. Even the rubbish on the floor scattered as it approached at speed. The passage was tight and I turned to my left to try and get out, but it was too late. I felt the pain as if something had just pierced under my right rib cage and went all the way through to the back. This startled me a little, and we proceeded to arrange shooting the cellars. The audio refused to tape again in the cellars, and I felt really odd. I was sweating heavily and was becoming very weak and drowned in dread. Right after the incident in the tunnel, it felt as if a hole in my chest had been punctured on a spiritual level, and my life was sleeping into the stones. In order to describe it and let the reader understand that they would had to have experienced a large blood loss sometimes in their lives. As they felt the blood drain, this weakness would become prominent. Other words, they were experiencing the onset of death. I was dying.
Oh my gosh. In a tight tunnel.
In a tight tunnel.
And I have some experience with some tight tunnels, so I know how, like, intense they can be.
We're leaving that pause in there for dramatic effect.
That pause was DJ staring me down.
And blinking like Katie Couric.
Anyway.
Do you want one more elemental story?
Yeah, let's go for it.
We crept in through the gaping doorway. Our flashlights revealed a huge hole in the stone-floored front hall, and we gingerly made our way around the edge, heading for the spiral staircase. No ghost would make us nervous. We were the Dublin Ghostbusters. Despite our confidence, we found ourselves talking in whispers. A slight sound behind me, and I spun like a ballerina to see the cause, but as I spun around, I slipped and then dropped through the hole in the floor. The flashlight hit a rock and went out. Just above me, just out of reach, I could see the jagged outline of the floor. I could hear friends coming to help me, and then, in the darkness, I could hear a sniffling, snorkly sort of noise. There was a smell, too. A horrid, rotten smell. I am not athletic, but that night terror put rockets into my heels. I shot upwards, scrabbling madly. I made the doorway and did not stop running until I was safely in the car.
Oh my gosh. That's so spooky. Like, it doesn't sound like... The way you describe it, it doesn't sound too scary to me right now, but, like, I'm sure if I was in the moment and I came face to face with it, I'd probably be terrified.
I'm just, like, imagining it. Like, I'm just like, oh. Oh.
The noise it makes. See, I want to know, like, the smell, like, exactly how bad it smells.
Decay, like a human body rotting.
Oh, that would be awful.
Yeah. And, like, people say, like, you smell it first, and then when you see it, it intensifies, even if it doesn't get near you. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, like, I just imagine it licks people.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like, I just imagine, like, those lifeless eyes looking at you, and the saliva is dripping, and I can just imagine it going, right up your face.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, being a mark of death.
Oh, yeah, like a haunter, like the Pokemon haunter, how it licks them with its big tongue. Yeah. And then back to the smell thing, when you said you like smell it before you see it, all I could think about was like a sixth grader who covers themselves in Axe body spray, and they would roam around the mall, and then like you would like smell the group of like sixth graders before you see them because they have the awful Axe body spray. Mm-hmm. And like I feel like everyone has probably had that experience where they've smelled a teenage boy with too much Axe.
Yeah, so maybe the elemental is just the ghost of a teenage boy.
With too much Axe.
So I used to volunteer in my high school and middle school,
mm-hmm.
and I would always tell the middle schoolers, I cannot stress enough to you to shower. And no, just because Axe body spray is a mist of liquid, that does not count as a shower.
Right. Why teenage boys, I don't know why they're so obsessed with Axe body spray and using too much of it. It's wild.
I think, and I don't, because like I was like this when I was little, like I hated bath time. I hated getting showers. I'd try and go like as long as I possibly could without like being made to do a shower, like when I was really little.
Yeah.
And then like, but now it's like, I love showering. Like, I shower every day. That's my me time.
Right, that's my alone time to get my life together.
Sit in there and, like, let the water pound on me, and it's just like, oh.
Right. It is so...
And, like, these middle schoolers like, I haven't showered in 15 days. It's like, bro, you smell rank.
Right. Middle school boys are just idiots. And that's just all it is.
Also, Axe body spray is not deodorant.
Exactly. It is not deodorant. PSA.
Like, no, like, here's the thing. Like, in my high school, like, you would, like, it was one building.
Mm-hmm.
The middle school was on one floor. The high school was on the second floor. We were very small. And you would, like, literally go from the second floor down to the first floor where the middle school were. And just that smell of BO with, like, velvet chocolate over top. And you know, that's one of the... That was one of the smells, was, like, velvet chocolate.
Yeah, for sure.
And it didn't smell like chocolate.
No, or velvet.
Or velvet.
Right.
And, like, The only thing that I can describe is, like, my grandfather gets the smelly garbage bags, the ones that, like, are supposed to smell like Aloha Breeze.
Right.
But, like, you take the trash out, and it's like, I really don't want to smell Aloha Breeze and rotting banana peels.
Right, exactly.
Because now, every time I open the cover where the spare garbage bags are kept, and I smell the whiff of Aloha Breeze, I gag because it's so sweet. And then you also think about, like, oh, I literally smelled rotting meat last week with this.
Right, you're scarred by the scent now because it's your trash can scent. A similar thing happened to me. Like, we had scented garbage bags, and one time I was sick, and I had to keep throwing up in the garbage can, so now I can't smell that smell anymore because I associated when I was sick and throwing up in the garbage can.
Okay, as I'm drinking this, it really doesn't taste bad. The smell, however...
It's not a good smell.
No, it kind of smells like... It smells flammable.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't smell appetizing, so, like, I want to take a hefty sip, but I can't because the smell oogs me out.
Yeah. But, liquor doesn't smell good, really. So, it's not for smelling. But back to Lep Castle. Sorry, back to the elemental. Didn't mean to veer off.
No. And, like, so Sean Ryan, who's the current owner, said he's never experienced anything with the elemental. He's never felt that dread or anything. Some investigators have said that, like, as they were provoking it, stuff like that would happen. Although there's one story about Sean Ryan, because him and his wife are actively renovating the castle, where he was up on a very high ladder. When suddenly the ladder was pushed away from the wall while he was up on it.
Ooh.
And he decided to jump rather than ride it down. And he ended up breaking his knee and had to have a whole kneecap replacement.
Oh my gosh.
And there was another occasion where another ghost pushed him and he broke an ankle. I think it's the elemental.
It probably is.
Like, this seems to be, like, the most, like, malevolent spirit there. And, like...
Besides that red woman.
She sounds malevolent, but, like, she sounds threatening. This is, like... This can touch you.
So maybe the red woman's all talk, but the elemental, he'll do it to you. Yeah.
So, I just want you to know, next Halloween, I'm going to go as the sexy elemental.
Oh my god, I'm calling the cops.
Yeah, I'm going to get, like, gray felt, make, like, a little dress, paint myself a different shade of gray.
Oh no, not the sexy elemental.
Yeah. And then I'm going to do, like, the white flaky crust at the side of the corners of my mouth to be, like, the saliva.
Jesus. Oh my god.
Do you want to kiss me?
Oh my god. I bet you're going to pull all the men with that outfit.
You never know. In conclusion, family killing one another to claim power. Brother slaying brother during religious services. Masters killing soldiers and hiding the corpses. An unknown, terrifying, malevolent, inhuman spirit stalking the halls. Whether it's the history or the spirits which startle you, it is undeniable that Lep Castle has an atmosphere which can set everyone from the staunchest skeptic to the most ebullient believer on edge.
Ooh.
Paul, I have a couple questions for you.
All right, I'm ready.
First of all, smash or pass Mildred Darby?
Mildred Darby? I think we're gonna have to smash. Why not?
She sounds Mildred Darby.
Yeah, she sounds like a cool gal. I'm here for it.
Second of all, what was the scariest part of this episode? The elemental talking about how middle schoolers smell, or me making you drink this mead?
I'm gonna have to go with probably the middle schoolers, because that just brings back bad memories of middle school and things I don't want to relive.
Are you gonna be thinking about this at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're by yourself?
I'll probably be thinking about the mead and the middle schoolers, because both, like, very bad memories.
So have I scared you?
No.
Damn.
Maybe next time.
Oh.
Again, your current challenge for the viewers, just so everyone knows, is for DJ to bring something up that genuinely terrifies me.
Yes. Well, I mean, I do have a couple spooky things queued up for the holidays because it's the most wonderful time of the year, which means that it can also be spooky season still.
Exactly. And I think you guys are really gonna like, DJ came up with a great idea for the December season.
Yes, Paul knows kind of he understands the theme that I'm doing, but he does not necessarily know the topics that I am covering.
Right. So I'm very excited for this holiday season and what December's gonna bring us.
Yeah, this is our last November episode. We have been doing this for going on 2 months.
I know. It's super exciting, and I'm super excited for December and beyond. And I love making these podcasts and sharing spooky stories as well as spooky pairings with all of you. It's been a great journey so far.
It has been a great journey, and so with the last of my meat, I'll say to you, sláinte, which is an Irish toast.
Cheers. And next week I will have some Tinder stories for everyone. We can just keep the dating theme going because that's going to be a common thing.
It stresses me out.
I'm trying to get out there more, so I'm going to share this journey with you all moving forward.
Well, Paul and listeners, just remember as you go through online dating to always keep your crypts tight
and your corks loose.
Bye.